Good evening and great night to my listeners. Tonight we will finish the ancient, the wonderful Egyptians of the ancient Kushite Empire. Part 3. In Egypt today, the most effective battalions are those commanded by black Nubians. In ancient ages, the Egyptians followed the lead of the Ethiopian to battle, and it is instinctive in them to so do today. Kushites were the backbone of the armies in the earliest ages. The Egyptian has no warlike qualities. It was the Kushite who was the head and brains of the foreign conquests. It was the Kushite element of the old empire that extended itself in foreign colonization eastward and westward around the world. Across Arabia and southwestern Asia, even to the central highlands, inscriptions and massive images in stone stand as voiceless witnesses that they were the commanders of the Egyptian armies and that the Ethiopian masses accompanied the soldiers as trusted allies and not as driven slaves. We must remember that in the early ages they were not a subject race, but their power as a great empire was at its zenith. The Egyptian of today, much changed from the ancient whom Herodotus called black, is content to live in a mud hut beside his beloved Nile. He is despised by the prouder Nubian, who saves his earnings to buy a home and piece of ground in his native Ethiopia. Reclus tells us that the dislike between Egyptians and Nubians is carried to such a great extent that the Nubians, even in Egypt, will not marry an Egyptian woman, and that he refuses his daughter in marriage to the Egyptian and Arab. This could have come down alone front an old age consciousness of superiority. He knows the proud traditions of his race. In books careless of ethnography, we find the Nubian class with Semitic stock. They have no affinities at all with this race. Nubians are never able to speak the Arabic tongues grammatically. Nubian women are seldom seen in Egypt. They are the most faithful to the manners and customs of the old race. The Egyptian of today makes little showings of ambition or the spirit for great deeds. He squanders his earnings upon trinkets and seems content in the same mud hovel in which the masses of Egyptians primitively lived. Pritchard recognizes two branches of the Nubians of the Nile and those of the Red Sea. In the age of Herodotus, the countries known as Nubia and Sennaar were occupied by two different races, one of which he includes under the name Ethiopian. The other was a pastoral race of Semitic descent, which led a migratory life. This distinction continues to the present day. The Red Sea nomadic tribes are extremely savage and inhospitable. The Nile Nubas, or Barabra, are the original Ethiopians. They are agricultural and have old hermetic traits. They plant date trees and set up wheels for irrigation. These are the Ethiopians mentioned in chronicles as possessing war chariots. Their allies were the Libyans. Semites at that age of the world had no possession of iron vehicles. Hirine says that the ancestor of these Ethiopians had long lived in cities and had erected magnificent temples and edifices, that they possessed law and government, and that the fame of their progress and knowledge in the social arts had spread in the earliest ages to a considerable part of the world. Maurice, that reliable authority on ancient remains, declares, "The ancient Ethiopians were the architectural giants of the past. When the daring Kushite genius was in the full career of its glory, it was the peculiar delight of this enterprising race to erect stupendous edifices, excavate long subterranean passages in the living rock, form vast lakes, and extend over the hollows of adjoining mountains magnificent arches for aqueducts and bridges. It was they who built the Tower of Babel, or Belus, and raised the pyramids, or Egypt. It was they who formed the grottos near the Nile and scooped the caverns of Salset and Elephante. These latter are wonders of Hindu architecture. Their skill and mechanical powers astonishes posterity, who are unable to conceive by what means stones 30, 40, and even 60 feet in length, from 12 to 20 in depth, could ever be raised to the point of elevation at which they are seen in the ruined temples of Belbek and Thebes. Those comprising the pagodas of India are scarcely less wonderful in point of elevation and magnitude, end quote. We will begin chapter 3 on the next reading of the wonderful Ethiopians of the ancient Kushite Empire. Until next time, sleep well, dream well, be at peace. Good night.